call the DPW Parks
I'm on this committee.
and Railroad Committee to order. First thing we need is a motion to approve the minutes of the prior meeting. Motion by Supervisor Dickinson, seconded by Supervisor McGowan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Benway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First is to request transfer of funds from equipment and supplies for up yonder.
Okay, and why, what do we just,
For the
Yeah.
equipment, the stove and stuff.
I didn't hear it.
The stove and stuff that up yonder wanted, and the extra material.
Oh, okay, I got you.
I didn't see that.
You want me to finish it, or no? Okay, you got it.
Where is the actual resolution?
It's right here.
Oh,
The request for transfer. Turn
Oh,
20.
I never seen that. Internet.
Okay,
Excuse me, I think we're in a meeting here.
We call order?
yeah, we are in committee.
That's not messing around.
Okay, Mr. Benway, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you.
Again.
Okay. The first item I have is transfer funds up yonder. We want to take, replace a stove that we use for our programs. It actually quit operating, so we'd like to switch money to the $900 and $400 into other equipment from part-time. My part-time help is done for the season, so I don't need the money, so I'd like to transfer it out.
Okay, moved by Supervisor Loeb, seconded by Supervisor Dickinson. Any discussion? Call the question. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The next item I'll turn over to Mr. Hajos.
This is a request to fill a position. Tim has, Tim, you can correct me if I'm wrong, 3 individuals down there for what they refer to as building maintenance workers. They take care of all the facilities, they take care of the bike path, they take care of all the maintenance on all the parks and recs, all the canoe launches. Tim had part-time help for the summer, as he just said. His part-time help is over with. He just had a building maintenance worker resign. This would backfill that position, so Tim would still be up to his normal staff without the temporary help from the summer.
I'll move that.
Supervisor Dickinson, seconded by Supervisor...
I'll second it.
Mayor Diamond. I want to say Mayor Diamond. Supervisor Diamond. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The next item is under referral and pending items. We've been asked to continue to watch for the Smart Growth Grant through DEC. We've kept tabs on them. I've made calls every week. They asked me to watch the New York State Grants Gateway for when this was to come out. I continue to watch it every week. It has not come out yet, but once it does, I will let the committee know.
Okay. We'll move right into the information for discussion and review.
Okay, the next item I have is, we're going to salmon stock Wednesday, Thursday of this week. I just put a quick note here that we received them at 7.5. They're going to be released at 10.25 inches. We stocked the southern basin with half, which is 1,500, and then the other 1,500 we go to Rogers Rock up in the northern basin. We finished the Heritage program. That is our wild strain that we released with the state of New York. So we did 11,985 Horn Lake fingerlings at an average of 4.5, which is a fairly good size. We had a good year. And then I included a graph of our total year of 48,753 once the salmon are stocked on Thursday. Good fish here.
Got a question, Tim. Those Horn Lake fingerlings, do they reproduce?
Yes, they have.
They will.
opportunity, yep. They're a wild strain, correct.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Good.
Pretty personal question.
That's all I have.
Chairman Conover.
Yeah, but what would be, have you ever given any thought to what we would need to do in terms of physical plant increase production of trout?
Do it ourselves?
Yeah. Yeah, where we are, would it require a major expansion of our plant?
Yeah, we'd have to have more water for one, and a facility to hold what they call brood stock. We used to do it years ago, and they seen it was viable just to take in the eggs, let someone else do the stripping, and then once they're eyed up, they mail them to us. The only thing that we do from scratch is the Horn Lake wild strain, where they go out, do dip nets, bring us back the eggs, we put them in our incubator, and from like midweek of November until now, we raise to fruition, and then the state dictates where they go in the Adirondacks.
So we're pretty much at capacity now.
We are, unless we, reduced our stocking permit, which I mean, that's up to you, but we could do it. We did it in the past.
Thank you.
I think it's a good point. It's a major point of our tourism, this stocking program. It really supports a lot of opportunities on the Schroon River, in my area, on ponds within our towns. So it's a good program.
We do what they call trout in the classrooms, getting big too, where we actually request more eggs and divide them up into the classes in Queensbury, and Trout Unlimited works with them, and they actually do their own program where they actually produce them from egg right until fingerling, and then they go out in local streams. It's getting bigger and bigger every year, more and more requests. And we're open 7 days a week, so they can always come see our facility and see how it's done. I mean, this is the time of year that we start taking in all our eggs.
And while we're in this, in the Parks and Railroad, there's nothing to update on the railroad.
Other than
Anything?
I took Omnitrax out last Tuesday. They didn't comment much. They said they were going to speak to Ryan about it, but they enjoyed what they saw. They didn't see any major problems.
Yep, they're going to give me an update this afternoon on where they're at with the Hollis line.
Okay. Yeah, I actually went from North Creek right to almost Daniels Road.
Supervisor Conover?
Yeah, Kevin, maybe you could give the committee an update on that Thurman crossing.
That was farther down in my,
Oh, okay.
actually it's a DPW meeting, but I can do it now if you'd like. Under the Public Works agenda, I had River Road crossing in Thurman. As you all are aware, last year when we had the ice dams, River Road in the town of Thurman was lost, a large portion of it next to the Hudson River. New York State DOT came in to help out the town a little bit just as far as cost estimates, and they assumed for them to do any type of embankment work along that river, and with the permitting and everything they have in place, probably somewhere in the vicinity of about $3 million. It was not considered a natural disaster or whatever under FEMA, so there was no money that the town could receive for that. So we worked with the town on developing possible route or an alternate route for them to reroute River Road away from the river, but that would change where River Road actually crossed our track, probably about 200 yards up the road just before the washout is where typically River Road crossed our track. We moved it down, gave them a new alignment. It's all within county property that I think we would keep as a permanent easement. They've done pretty much most of the work out there already to have a road in place. We need to move the signal and such down. We haven't rushed necessarily on the signal because there is no train traffic anymore along that route. Eventually, if Omnitrax or someone does come in, there will need to be a signal put in place. The town has been willing to assist us and have the county, or they've requested the county to do the work. It would be a cost to us that the town has said that they would reimburse the county through their CHIPS program, and that would be part of the road work. They could get that reimbursement through CHIPS. I think I spoke with Pat Woods yesterday, the highway superintendent. He said that would probably come in the December CHIPS money that he'd be receiving. We haven't done any of the work yet. We have a cost estimate. We're probably, with us doing a lot of the work, probably $20,000-$30,000, somewhere give or take, to get that. The signal work is a lot. There's a large portion of it that the county can do in-house. It's to run the conduits, put the electrical in, but then there's a lot of track work, and the track work is what's more expensive than anything. But again, the town would be willing to reimburse the county through their CHIPS money. Again, it's somewhere in that $30,000 range. I guess I didn't bring it because I just brought it for an item for discussion, but we could do a resolution to enter into an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Thurman for them to reimburse us for any of that work out there.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Kevin, without any traffic, I remember we talked prior about pinning up our signals. And without any traffic, does it make sense? So it's two questions. Say we pinned up our signals. And does it really make sense to really work on the track here if we don't know what the status is going to be and we can put that off for some time?
The problem is with this crossing, well, let me step back a little bit. For the winter months, I don't necessarily think we need to, I think we could put up, say, a static type display or something, just to let individuals know coming upon that there is a crossing. It's a sight distance for someone coming down River Road to look back up the track is very difficult, just because of the way that the road comes into the track. Again, for this year, we can put up some type of static display just to say that there is a crossing in that area. We could hold off if the rail does get sold, put the onus on the new owner, and let them put in the signal. But if we continue to move forward, if we happen to go a lease route, we're going to have to put that signal eventually back in.
Can we open the road without that being done?
Putting a static display in, or a static type of crossing, we could open the road.
People would really like that road open. It's been a long time.
And again, this is, the county's assisting the town. The town can't afford a $3 million cost, and again, they have no funding from FEMA or anyone else that can help them repair that road along the river.
Supervisor Bramer, you had your hand up earlier.
Yes, it's a different comment, but who's going to pay for the $3 million?
Nobody's going to pay for the $3 million. They're not. That's why we moved the road, Supervisor Bramer.
Okay, thank you. And I was thinking in my mind, Kevin, maybe that's a resiliency example I can use, doing something to get us away from the climate impact.
Absolutely.
That way, that area won't be coming, hopefully, right?
Correct. Basically that was from the ice jams. That's on a portion of the river. There's a sharp bend in the river there, and what ended up happening last year when the ice jams came through, it just tore that whole embankment out. They probably lost 500 feet plus or minus of their roadway, and it's a steep embankment. It's probably 25 feet down to the river in that area.
So how much is it costing us to do the work, us county?
It hasn't cost us anything as of yet, but we said for the signal work, for us to do a lot of the in-house conduit runs and such, very minimal, probably $5,000 maybe at the most. The more significant work is involved with the work that has to be done along the track. They have to weld wires on the track for the new signals for the advancement or where they'd be moved to.
Okay.
The town will do anything that they can to help, to keep costs down.
Yep.
Pat said that.
Supervisor Loeb?
What does the county, DPW, and the town of Thurman need from this committee to move forward to get to where they want to be?
I think just a resolution to enter into an intermunicipal agreement with the town and saying that the town would reimburse the county for from their CHIPS money for any of the work associated maybe with a contractor that we have to come in and do some of the track work.
You in full agreement with that statement? I would move that, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Seconded by Supervisor McGowan. Discussion?
Mr. Chairman, do we really need to spend the money now, though? I don't, fix the road, right, obviously, but do we need to spend the money on the track and the signal? Can we put that off?
Maybe the
I would-
temporary road, just a road,
I-
and do the tracks later.
I can put it off, Supervisor Wild, but again, depending on what happens with the track, there shouldn't be any traffic on the track this year. So we can put up some type of static display that's saying that there is a crossing in that area. But eventually, if we do still retain the track and there's train traffic on that, we need to put in that signal crossing.
My recommendation would be prudent to wait until we figure out exactly what's going to happen with this road corridor. On the signal side, not on the road side.
Right.
So, I mean, the road's basically in, except for they need to do some pavement in between the tracks, putting the rubber, I forget what they were. Yeah, Affleck's in. That's one portion that still needs to be done right now.
Is there any downside for not doing it now?
For the signal work?
Yeah.
No, not unless the track becomes active again. That would be the downside. We'd have to have that, and I don't want to be putting in a signal in the middle of winter.
Supervisor Loeb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With this discussion that we just heard, what did my motion involve?
To enter into an intermunicipal agreement with Town of Thurman to repair, and I think it was for the crossing.
For everything associated.
For everything
with the crossing,
associated with the crossing.
which would include the signal. And that's just to say that if we do move forward with doing the crossing work and having a contractor come in and do it, that the Town of Thurman, through their CHIPS money, would reimburse the county.
The end of December, when you get your money.
Well, period.
Supervisor
Mr. Chairman, just, so this is still a little gray up in the air. You're entering into an agreement, but what actually are you going to do based on the question from Supervisor Wild?
I still have to do the pavement, or we still have to do, between the town and the county, help them to do the pavement and crossing work. And that's putting in those rubber, basically, channels on either side of the rail. That work still has to be done for this year. Otherwise, every time they plow across that track this year, they'll be ripping out rails on me every time they cross it.
How much did you say the work for the signals was going to be?
Probably somewhere in the vicinity, the contract work would be about $30,000. It would be very minimal for what the county has to do.
Okay, we ready to call the question? It includes the signals. And,
No, hold on.
okay, well, that's what I'm trying to get to
All right,
a
so
conclusion here. Everybody's looking at me.
We're going to upgrade the crossing so that the plows don't tear it up each time. And this is what the Town of Thurman wants. That road will be open and usable. At some point, when the railroad becomes active, we're going to have to spend money on those signals. Now, the resolution we have today, in my mind then, is that county and Thurman will be in agreement that that road will be opened and the crossing will be fixed to the point where it won't be damaged by the plows. But we're not including the okay of the expense for the signals at this point.
Would it be easier that within this intermunicipal agreement that we state that the town will reimburse the county for any work to do with the crossing as well as the signal? If the signal work, and you can put it within the agreement, if the signal work is not done or the track is sold, then there's no cost. There may be no cost to the town for that work. Just keep it all in the same resolution and the same agreement.
That makes sense?
Yeah, I just
I
have
think
to
so.
ask Supervisor Hyde, with CHIPS money by December, what if we don't do it until March? Should there be CHIPS money still available to reimburse us then?
You want me to answer the question for you? They get CHIPS reimbursements throughout the year. Typically, I think the last one for this year, and their money goes from one year to the next, but the last reimbursement for this year I think is due sometime in November, and that's when you get it in December.
Okay, I'll defer to Supervisor Hyde, whatever she wants to do.
We need to do this.
Supervisor Loeb.
People get sick of going
upgrade
around.
my resolution to include what Mr. Hajos just said about if these signals shouldn't come to pass and we're not going to make the expense, any expenses would be covered by the Town of Thurman.
And I'll second the...
We already had Okay, the amended...
The up amended.
Okay. Okay.
I got a question. The only question I would have to Supervisor Hyde is that, do you see a problem with your board approving this agreement?
Well, that is...
That's a loaded question.
And I can't blame you for asking.
Be interesting.
I would... I would certainly
I
hope...
think you answered my question.
Just to add on, if Supervisor Hyde would like to bring this back to her committee or her board when she talks about it, is that I don't think that if we don't do some of this work, we would open that road, or you would open that road. So that may be something to bring to them.
They like the highway superintendent, so chances of
So
them
Pat wants
approving
the road
something
open.
there are better than the other side.
Okay, I'll call it. We're ready for the question, I'll call it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Okay, and Supervisor Bramer.
I can hold on just a moment, I was just gonna ask if there's any updates from the Stony Creek people.
They're communicating with me. They submitted a two-pager that they were proposing to be a contract between themselves and the county. It did not meet most of what we had asked for. I put comments on it indicating what they needed to improve and the other points that they needed to address, and that's a back-and-forth communication.
We can consider it at the board meeting. Would you also like to update us on the RFP?
Sure, and Julie is here. Thank you, Julie, for the help. We have a Phase 1 draft. Looking for, we're just polishing that up with DPW. Phase 1 would be a qualifier, similar to what we did with the airport RFP, so that we can, put it out to the broad universe that might be interested, and we can review qualifications and limit the actual RFP to the groups that we know are going to be able to either do the operation or actually do a purchase. So Phase 1 is also going to include a draft of Phase 2, is that right, Julie? Phase 2 would be the actual RFP. That draft is subject to change, but Julie has a draft together. I am putting some input into that, as well as the DPW. So I would say within the next couple of weeks, we'll be in a better position on that. And we, given the abandonment proceeding, which would be the stay, I believe, was enacted, the 90-day stay. So we were kind of holding our horses, waiting to see what was going to happen with the abandonment. It looks like, provided Omnitrax and DEC are able to negotiate a deal, that abandonment petition may be withdrawn. Not much sense in going forward with an RFP if the line is abandoned and there's no viable freight. So that's where we're at, and we'll have an update as we get the work done. I can certainly send it out to supervisors who are interested.
Okay, and Superintendent Ajos is going to update us on the situation in Johnsburg.
Just real quick, Supervisor Hogan, I don't see here, but most if not all of North Creek Station is cleaned. The engine house is completely cleaned out. There's a couple of totes that they still had that somebody local was taking them, but I think that is it for North Creek. There are a couple dumpsters up there that have been an issue apparently with Revolution Rail as well as Gore Electric. They would like them removed. They're not county dumpsters. In fact, I don't have the ability to be able to lift those type of dumpsters. There's a front load dumpsters, so we've reached out to the names on the dumpsters. I think it's Casella Waste, to have them removed out of there. That's something that Saratoga North Creek left behind, but I believe they're being used for other people's refuse at this time. As far as Riparius, Riparius is cleaned as well. I think we've changed all the locks on Riparius as well as in North Creek, so it's all back in the county's locks. There is a vehicle still sitting on Riparius that they are coming to pick up. They can't drive it out of here. They have to put it on a flatbed to remove it. I was asked by Supervisor Hogan about Riparius. There's a pile of ties sitting there. Those are the ties that Saratoga North Creek replaced basically on our track. She had asked me just to remove those or get rid of them. It's not that easy. They are basically coated or soaked with creosote, and I just can't dispose of them anywhere. So we're looking into where we can remove those ties to, but it'll be some time for us to get those out of there. But they're set back in the woods farther down the track at this time. As far as Mike Kelly goes and his equipment, he was to come up there during Columbus Day and put new wheels on his track. He was up there that weekend. I know that he spoke with Supervisor Hogan. Moved his cars up to the rail yard. He would like to use the engine house to put his wheels on, but one, I haven't given him permission to do that, and two, no wheels have shown up on site yet. So we've reached out to him. I have not gotten a response back from him to say when he's going to be done. He told Supervisor Hogan he would be done in a month, and that was from Columbus Day weekend.
Treasurer Swan, did the Octax issue get resolved? No. Okay. Thank you. Okay, if that's it for Parks and Railroad, no more. Any other questions? We'll move into DPW.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first is on page 2. It's a request to transfer funds for a road project. I brought one of these back last month. These were the contractor road projects. We're doing, or we had extended with the contractor, more work on Warrensburg Road. This is just to add that money into that project to cover the cost where we extended that road.
Supervisor Frazier, seconded by Supervisor Merlino. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Next one is on page 3, which is a transfer of funds to each one of the road projects. This has covered the cost of internal rentals. This would be our trucks, our equipment that we charge for the projects. There's not actually a code within the road projects. It's just to transfer the money into those projects.
Supervisor McGowan, seconded by Supervisor Merlino. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The next one I have is a transfer of funds for overtime for town projects. Again, this is under the town projects. We don't have an overtime code. This is to transfer salaries into those codes for those town projects.
Supervisor Loeb, seconded by Supervisor Frazier. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Next item on the agenda is on page 5, is to create a new position. I had a position in DPW called a working supervisor position. These used to be the old positions that acted as a second to the foreman, but last year when we did the reallocations, we actually created the Highway Construction Supervisor 1 and then the foreman or the Highway Construction Supervisor 2. So this is to take the working supervisor position sort of out and add in a position that I could use as a motor equipment operator. Our motor equipment operator lights that we have, we require them to have CDLs, so someone that we would hire would come in and automatically be able to run one of our tandems and do some plowing for us.
Do you have any problem filling these positions, Kevin?
I am having difficulty filling positions. I just had this conversation actually with Supervisor Garrity not long ago. We had a hard time this summer even getting temporary help in. I think we had 4 of the 5 positions filled for temporary help. The next 5 or 6 candidates that were on the list that we looked at or interviewed, one of them, or the best candidate, didn't have a driver's license. That was the best candidate that I could find.
Wow.
So, I mean, we're having a difficult time. I think last year with the reallocations, I think it made a difference in upping some of the salaries of these positions. I still think we may be a little bit behind. I'm hoping that I can fill this position. I definitely could use the help at DPW.
I'll move that.
Okay. Supervisor Dickinson, seconded by Supervisor Diamond. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The next 3 items are basically to backfill positions. This would backfill the position just created for the MEO Light, as well as 2 mediums. Both the mediums now have moved over to the airport, so I need to backfill the positions of them under DPW going into the winter season.
I'll move all 3 of those.
Okay, do we have a second? Supervisor Merlino, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
The last item on the agenda that I have is to amend Resolution 290 of 2018. 290 had spelled out a cost that the county would pay to the towns for the road work that they do each year. In the past, this was calculated by the 3 previous years' cost to the county. So for 2018, we couldn't use 2016 because we were creating the budget 2017. So we used 2014, 15, and 16 as what the cost would be that we would pay the towns per mile for their road work that they do for us, which includes plowing, removing the sand in the spring month on the edges of the roads, as well as doing mowing in the summer. Some towns do twice a year mowing for us, other towns only do once. 2014 was I want to say an off year. There was significant cost to the county that year, whether it be in overtime or most of it probably was in overtime. That raised the rate for this past year is I believe it's $8,200 per lane mile. I think you'll see it on page 12. It was $82.60 per lane mile. This year, when we redid the budget going in for next year, we looked at, of course, the next 3 years. 2014 fell off, so it was 15, 16, and 17. The cost went down to $7,900 per lane mile. A few of the towns had asked why. I'd given them the same explanation. I know right now, and maybe Supervisor Frazier can talk to it, the state, I believe, pays almost $9,600 per lane mile for the towns to do work for them. I have informed the chairman, as well as the chairman of the board, that I would look into going into next year's budget of revamping these rates, seeing why the rates are so high with the state. You know, what's it involved? What more does the state expect for the towns, so that maybe we can bring these rates up? This formula of doing the 3 years previous and average, I'm not sure that's the best route to take. I think I need to find some more information or historical data to possibly come up with some other rates.
Supervisor Conover.
Kevin, I'm really pleased to hear you say that. As you know, I've never been a fan of the existing formula. In general terms, the towns take care of about 150 of our 200 miles, but they're not spread evenly throughout the towns. A lot of the smaller towns, in particular, have 30 and even 40 miles of roads. Chester, I think, might even have 40.
32.87.
32. So in Thurman,
26.
you know, so
Yeah.
Hague has,
Only 9.
you know, and so,
That's 3.
well, to the county, you know, so for every $1,000 increase, let's say, over where we are to get closer to where the state is not a significant amount of money, but what it is I think it's a question of fairness. Now, the state's formula, as my understanding, as you know, it's supposed to be based on actual costs. The towns have to document the state's not giving anything away for free. We did raise this 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. We tried to do a little better, and kudos to everybody for doing that, but I think we need to try to do more. And maybe, Kevin, maybe we can't get there in 1 year. Working with the budget officer, maybe it's going to take us a couple of years, 2 or 3 years to get there, but I'd like to have a more actual formula that's really based on. And the other thing we could do is the equipment element of that program. During that same period of time, they took out a steep slope provision and put in a line for equipment, and that's shared evenly amongst the municipalities. And to Jim Merlino's comment the other day about this equipment, a lot of the small towns might like to buy, but they don't have the money. Perhaps we could look at that equipment line, Kevin, and maybe we could do a little better there as well. Again, perhaps over a 2 or 3 year program.
And on that note, Supervisor, Chairman, the towns all have, in fact, I just got a list from Betsy Henkel, who is my fiscal manager. No towns have submitted, or maybe 5 or 6 towns are still lacking submitting me some type of document for that snow equipment that they are going to purchase. I can't release those $8,000 checks to each of the towns until I see what that is. Now, to go back to Gene Merlino, Gene, I know we talked about this yesterday in those live edge plows. I assume that with this $8,000, maybe you could use, because there's a $5,000 match on these live edge plows, I assume that you could use this in your town, but I think that grant is only for, as I think Dave Harrington referred to it yesterday, as the basin area, and I don't think that Luzerne is in that at Lake George Basin, Lake George, Lake Champlain Basin area, so that may be not why you cannot use the $5,000 as your match. But there is a match on those live edge blades.
Well, you know how I feel. I mean, I told you, grants are state money. My town pays to the state for that grant. And that the richer towns get all these equipment. We struggle. I can't put $22,000 in my budget for a plow. You know? And the $8,000 that we've been getting the last 3 years helped a lot. We put a couple of new sanders on the trucks. I mean, but we're still struggling, and I'd like to see some other formula help the little towns out. You know, none of the little towns have the budgets that the bigger towns have.
Supervisor Beatty.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I know Julie and I and others have been talking about, and this may not apply because you need a plow, okay? You know, all towns get the snow, but sharing all the, getting to a point where we can share all county equipment and town equipment as one. And we're not there yet, we got a long way to go, but the fact of the matter is, here's a perfect example of one town needing something, and another town may have that piece of equipment now, they may need it at the same time, I get that. I said, but we gotta get to the point where a town's equipment and a county's equipment, we should all be one. We should all be able to interuse those. Now, I know you gotta do municipal agreements and so forth from a liability standpoint and all that stuff, I get that. But we, to be real cost effective, we need to have all the equipment the towns have and the county has accessible to everyone in a timely manner as best we can. And then that to me will create significant cost savings. And I know Julie's on board with that, and I think Ryan is too. Not to speak for them, but anyway, that's Gene. So I'm all with you on that. I'm with all the towns on that.
I would, you know, there's a, you know, an initiative across the Adirondacks to reduce salt, and we all know it's really a big topic right now. And you know, Gene highlighted about this live edge plow, and the difference between, I think, a normal plow is what, $12,000, and we all pay $12,000. Why don't we encourage these plows, which is going to save each town, each municipality money in a reduction of salt. We're going to get the environmental benefit of the less salt entering into our water and our waterways. You know, why don't we consider raising that to $10,000 and trying to encourage these plows, these live edge plows, so that towns like Gene can purchase the right plow that he needs.
Well, I mean, we got plows. I mean, we plow.
No, I know, but I'm saying the live edge, though.
My point, the live edge plows now, with the great job that Lake George has done, proving the fact that with these plows, they get up more snow and ice off the road, and they use less salt. So that's my point. I mean, I got plows, and we plow, but we can't afford one of these. I mean, one plow is $22,000 or $23,000. It's, you know, big bucks.
I think what the chairman, though, is saying, Supervisor Merlino, is that these are $22,000 plows. If maybe this rate is up to $10,000 per town, and that would have to go through, of course, the budget, that you would only have to pay $12,000 for that plow, because you're going to get 10,000 correct?
Yeah, what you're expending,
And I
12,000.
agreed with, when I talked to Mr. Decker, he said it was gonna cost me 11 grand if I was eligible. I said, that's no problem, I'll take care of that. But they told me, we're not in the watershed property, but Lake Luzerne and a lot of other lakes are in Warren County. So I just don't understand why when we get grants like that, only use a certain portion that goes a certain place and not the whole county. So it was something I want to bring for the next time a grant comes up, that it's, whatever happens, it's for all the lakes or all the roads or all, so that everybody's treated equal.
So what do you need to do what you want?
Well, I was trying to throw it on the table that if we could encourage, if the county could encourage the use of the switch over to the live edge plows, we'll all see the benefit of that. And if you raise this to raised it $2,000 to $10,000, the town isn't spending more money. We're offsetting the full difference between the $12,000 plow that every town buys.
So you have the 8,000, you're looking for some source for $2,000.
Yeah. If the town supervisors that are here are going to purchase that. Supervisor Garrity?
Well, I was just going to talk about the contract. I think it's just a rookie mistake that the rates drop versus going up this
Right.
year. So we'll attribute that to rookie mistake. But would we have to do anything here to change this equipment upgrades? Would that have to be changed through a resolution? Because that was something to do with one of the electronics that we put on the trucks that run the spinners, correct?
The Cirrus systems, that's correct. That was part of it.
So that was all, that was just part of it?
I don't
The
think...
roof
I
salt,
think the way
reduce
Richard
salt.
did it was to get that electronic part put on the plow trucks so when you're idling, that, they wouldn't...
I think it was, and I'll go back and look at the resolution, I believe it was just to reduce salt. That was the gist behind the...
Okay.
And
I don't know, I just thought that was the only place we could use it, and then we had to prove our right arms to whoever that we didn't spend the money, right?
you just still have to prove that. I'm not going to make a rookie mistake there.
Supervisor Wild.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just to get out of the box, what if the county bought a bunch of these plows and just leased it to the towns?
Well, they need to come up with the money.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
Well,
We're all in favor of it.
What I was proposing...
Don't raise Frank's blood pressure.
Okay. Supervisor Wild, what I was proposing was, we already are encouraging towns to reduce salt by this $8,000 equipment upgrade, which is totally towards material usage and less environmental impact. That was the qualifier of being eligible for it. So we learned at Friday's meeting that, a live edge plow is $22,000. We spend $12,000 every time we buy a truck. That's what the basic plow blade is, $12,000. So will we be able to encourage towns like Luzerne? I know Lake George is doing it, and I know Hague is also doing it. We were considering it. It didn't work out with our timing. We thought we would be eligible under that grant. So you need to order the truck specifically with the right hydraulics for this blade. But if you raise this to $10,000, it would cover the difference. I'm not proposing that the county buy and lease blades for everybody in the county.
so what we're doing is basically giving each town 10 grand.
Two, with
Buy a
qualification.
live edge plow.
Live edge plow.
But I
think so designed.
Oh, my God.
All right, but I think that's a great idea, and I don't want anybody to get mad at me, but there are 3 or 4 towns that have the blades already.
You're adding
Why are we
18,000.
giving them extra money to buy another one?
Supervisor.
No, I think
Supervisor Garrity.
I think he's making it available.
I'm just trying to catch up a little, that's all.
I got to piggyback on what Supervisor Wild, if the towns who are already getting this grant funding through the state, why not just take the towns that aren't getting the grant money through the state and buy their plows? Then you don't have to spend
Supervisor Conover.
Yeah.
Don't you...
We're at large, we get to sit back and watch the fireworks.
I would say, I would
Going to
say,
tell you what you just said.
I don't know, no, I would say this. This is a great example, and we've been doing this a long time now, of shared services before it became in fashion and was the state of the art. we avoid, Warren County, having built DPW buildings all over the landscape. We avoid all that rolling stock, we avoid all that manpower and so on by contracting right with the towns. They have the facilities, they have the equipment, they have the manpower. And I think that it's to county taxpayers' advantage to do whatever is appropriate to continue the system so that the towns continue to want to do this and are able to do this. And I think that any reasonable proposal, you know, I underscore the word reasonable proposal should be considered, because I think it really is a great example of where decentralization is more efficient than centralization.
I don't have any objection to making money available to the towns outside the basin. To counter Gene's comment. I mean, we have three. I like to throw that out. Yeah. we already have 3 live edge plows, and we have 3 major routes, and that's where those plows go. If the county can help the towns outside of the Lake George Basin, I'm all for it. Count me in.
Do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I would agree with that concept. You would propose raising 10,000 across the board.
To 10,000.
To 10,000.
$2,000, $18,000.
The basin communities have already received public money, and it would be appropriate that we taking care of our county, because every corner of the county is equally important, and we balance that out to help out the other part of the county with public money.
You know, in this formula, one thing that people need to realize also is that in this formula that they've used, the DPW has used in the past, they're using county DPW cost, estimated according to their labor. We know for a fact, I mean, if you look at the positions that we just approved, the funding, I mean, there isn't anybody in my town that works in the in our public works that's less than $10,000 more. And I suspect in all the other towns, they're the same way. So we're not using the right criteria to come up with this rate. So right now, on these 150 miles that we're doing for the county, they're not. It's not representative of what it's costing the towns. Towns are shouldering the cost. So we really need to look at this formula and how we do this. Because the alternative, I think at the last meeting we discussed this, and Kevin said, what was it just to cover Horicon?
I need at least 2 more. I was going down the list real quick, and any list or any of the towns in here that have somewhere in the vicinity of 26, 21, 26, 17, 32, for 26 miles of road, you're adding on 2 more trucks. There's 10 more trucks right there for the county to purchase to do that work. Not to mention the individuals, the bodies to put in those trucks to plow. So I think it's a benefit to have the towns do it. I do believe, and not a rookie mistake, I was following the same pattern everyone else used, but I think they should be probably back up to 8,600 and then reviewing what the town's costs are as well as what the state's formula is. It may even approach a higher cost that we pay the towns. With the $8,000, increasing that to $10,000, I just don't, do you want to limit it to a live edge blade? Because that's not what that resolution reads. That resolution was snow, equipment efficiency, whether it be temperature sensors, speed controls, other items for them to use. So do you want to limit it, if you do raise it, that the towns who are outside the basin who want to get a live edge blade, but maybe they want to use it for something else and don't want to use the live edge blade? I'm just not sure that's...
Pleasure of the committee. I don't know how many people are utilizing the 8,000.
Well, you've got
We just haven't gotten to you yet, but...
Right.
You've got a base 8,000 there.
Yeah.
With no strings. If you want to sweeten the pie and add $2,000, then you could put some strings on the 2,000. Now they could be as broad as you have to do something to abate the use of salt.
Riding.
whatever.
We're, like the county's using brine right now. We actually just bought two more brine storage.
So you got brining, you've got all the instrumentation, live edge plows, there's a lot of things out there. So you could throw that in there, but the 8,000 is for a plow, and you're definitely talking about live edge plow.
Very well.
Question, I think I heard that a live edge plow requires a new truck.
Your truck has to be able to accept a live edge plow.
Doesn't have to be.
It just has to have a hydraulic, I think it's a different configuration.
There's a hydraulic system component to these live edge blades.
On the newer trucks.
And the newer trucks
So everybody
are
has a newer truck that it would work.
I have one. Two, actually.
Like George has 3.
Okay, do we want to act on this today, or there's budget, we have a budget meeting coming up after this?
But I don't want to pull the rug off and under Frank.
Supervisor Stroud has a question.
Well, it takes on with what Supervisor Dickinson was talking about, the live edge plows and the brine equipment that we've gotten with grant money with the whole intent of reducing the salt and the sediments and sand usage on the road, especially in the Lake Basin. So we're committed, and this is part of the grant, part of the whole process, and Queensbury doesn't have a live edge plow yet, but we have one for it sometime we can. But again, it's tied in with the policy and program. Kind of like George received accolades for their sand and salt reduction program. And borrow their money and use it as a model for ours. But I think if you're going to be giving out money for live edge plows, it has to be tied in with a program that the towns are going to be committed to, especially in the Lake Basin.
Yep. Is that Claudia? I saw your hand.
No?
Supervisor Conover.
Well, I think it's great that there's this much interest, and initially, when, a few years back, when it first started, there was not a lot of people that were convinced that it happened, including folks from Georgia. So I think that the good news is there's a lot more interest now, but I would say that, if you were going to increase it, looking to increase it now at the 8,000 to 2,000 more, $10,000, be what, $18,000, an additional $18,000, and you'd have to authorize either an interpretation or a change in the language on the existing contract to allow for these things to take place. That would be a good thing, and to do. And I don't think it would be a lot of money, and get towns launched on this, and then we'd have the time to revisit this for the 2020 budget, or about to hear about the 2019 budget. So that could be the basis of a motion here today, if you so chose.
Supervisor Wild.
It's just a suggestion for a motion, not that I'm going to make one right now, but I'm thinking that because some of the towns in the basin have grant money, I think we exclude those from this cash payment that should be used for live edge plows across the county. I think it's important for us to think of it not just as the Lake George Basin, but the whole county that we have. And we want to do something to facilitate that. It's going to be a multi-year program, obviously, to get more of these as we go forward. So I'm thinking that the basin towns, maybe we can give them something to support that, but the non-basin towns get a little extra bump to try to facilitate and make this happen. I'm not sure what the numbers are yet.
Yes. Supervisor
Yes,
Wild.
everything I said before is still on the record. I would actually like to put Supervisor Molino on the spot. Supervisor Molino, I would love you to make the motion so that it meets the needs of your town, because I'm hearing what you're saying, but I don't know if I make a motion, it will be meeting the needs of your town.
I'd love to make the
I'm
motion.
in full support.
On what Mr. Weiss just said. Let's give a bump to some of the towns that weren't in the basin and included in this grant this year, and then talk about everybody getting a bump next year. That would help a lot, I think, some of the small towns.
Supervisor Strout?
You know, I'm in agreement for buying the live edge plows, and there is DEC money for doing this. So, should we just throw out Warren County cash, or should we investigate getting grant money, especially from DEC, for these other places? All you have to do is apply for the grant. Maybe we can have someone use some of our county services to apply for the grant that would benefit, like,
Point. What is the...
That'll take another year. But whatever, I really, okay, go ahead.
What, Supervisor Conover?
So.
I'd like to make the motion that way.
Just to quantify this, so that would exclude, the towns of, we'd be excluding the towns of Queensberry, Lake George Town and Village, Bolton and Hague. So we would be providing the additional $2,000 to 5 towns. 5 towns at a cost of $10,000. If that was...
Second that motion.
I can't make it.
No, we need somebody to make that motion.
No,
Supervisor Molino made the motion.
That's the motion I'd
I'll
like to
second.
make.
Okay.
Just real clear, but that's to buy the
Live edge plow. That extra money, that's what.
Yeah, some
I'll
towns
order
won't be
it
buying a
today.
truck next year. Not everybody buys a truck every year. But if you're gonna buy a truck next year, that helps.
So you got a motion and a second.
Do we have a did you make the motion?
I made the motion.
And you second it? Any further discussion? So that's,
That motion, so I understand.
it's gonna be for Chester, Horicon, Stony Creek, Thurman, and Warrensburg.
Luzerne.
And Luzerne. I'm sorry, Gene. I skipped right over it. I saw the L.
That's why I stay here and fight.
It's the L's. It's the L's.
I'm getting like this guy out here.
And put one plow in there too.
Yeah, they definitely need a live edge plow.
Let's all just...
I beg your pardon.
Frank?
Unfortunately, you have all that industry grounds.
Where's the funding source?
Yeah, I was
No,
gonna
I
say,
should,
where are we getting
Jack, I
it
take that back.
This is in relation to next year's budget.
This is the next year's
This is next year's budget.
They need $12,000.
$12,000.
Okay, so this is for 2019?
Yes, not for 2018.
I thought you
So-
were going to take it out of this year's.
So, Mr. Chairman, so this 2,000 is for the live edge plow, or is for 8,000 plus the 2,000 for the live edge plow?
It's, we talked about brining, the electronics, these are all,
I know I'm missing a meeting, I'll be there.
it's all of the salt
right.
reduction
Okay.
equipment.
amend 290.
We didn't. And, well, this is gonna be amending 290, so we're amending
So you're gonna,
this resolution to reflect,
right, so the second that we just had, the resolution was just to give the 2,000 extra, but it's also to reflect the extra money to pay each one of the towns for the work that they do for the county this year.
so Gene, would you amend your motion to include this reimbursement plan with,
Oh, to continue it, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely, yeah.
at the
No, I'm not
2000.
excluding that, definitely.
okay,
Hold
Did
on
you-
my second.
okay. Ready to call the question? All's in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
The next item I had on the agenda was under information for discussion and review for the River Road crossing, but we already discussed that during Parks and Rec, so I have nothing further.
Okay, anything for the committee? Supervisor Dickinson?
I'd like to point out, Mr. Beatty was talking about, I realize he's a supervisor at large, all of the towns have a vigorous program to help each other out. You'll notice the other day we talked about needing some work in Bolton, I believe. There were 5 or 6 other towns other than Bolton they're helping out. They already share services. They're a close-knit group of these DPW guys. They know who has what equipment. They know who can do what, who can't do what. So you're gonna find a problem if you think you're gonna go in and start having memorandums of understanding to do cooperation, because we already do it.
Yep.
Already. And they're good at it.
Just to follow up on that,
I had a call on you first.
understand.
Please, Mr. Beatty.
Yeah,
She had her hand, the committee had.
Oh,
I want to check, hadn't had her hand.
I just wanted to say, we have a memorandum of understanding with Ticonderoga because they're only 9 miles away, and we've been sharing services for years if they need help from us. So it's been going on.
Yeah, and I understand that, Dennis. I fully am aware of that. What I'm liking to do is, so the towns don't have to purchase as much new equipment, because other towns have that equipment, or the county has that equipment, and I've been even trying to lean on the state to give up their cache of equipment that sits around and goes bad, because no one ever uses them, but they keep it for quote emergencies. So that's the objective, so that we can decrease the cost of funding for new equipment by sharing more.
Supervisor Garrity first, and then...
Real quick, I just want to compliment DPW crews on the paving. I went on one of the roads over Sherman the other day, and the seams are nice, the pavement looks good. It seems like they turned the corner on the county paving. Not that we're going to use them. You know, they are, the roads are...
Supervisor Dickinson, we still have more on our agenda here. Solid waste.
Again, Town of Lake George needed a roll-off. Ours is done, toast. I happened to mention it, and Gene said he needed a roll-off. So we struck a deal. We bought the roll-off truck and have a memorandum of understanding with the town of Luzerne to take care of them, their needs for a roll-off truck. So it goes back to what I said. You know, they're really, really good about shared services.
Supervisor Trout.
I put together, drafted a shared services agreement that would pertain to all the municipalities within the county as well as the county itself. I don't know where we are with that.
Just what Doug Beatty mentioned, Supervisor Beatty, it's part of our shared services program. So every one of those, there were, I believe, 9 initiatives that we adopted. Every one of them, we will follow up and see what can be done, see what actually the towns are able to realize, and we will have the proper contractual approvals in place.
Yeah, we need the MOA signed.
Okay, with that, we're going to move into the solid waste. Mr. Hazel?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to turn this right over to Julie. She wants to discuss the solid waste contracts for this year and the renewals. Julie,
Down
on.
here.
I'm thinking to myself, she
I
left.
thought about it, but I figured I better say. I don't know if everybody remembers the email I sent out on October 5th, basically saying where we were at with solid waste extensions and the recyclables, the electronics recycling. A couple of conditions that Evolution gave us was that we expand storage at Queensbury and Bolton. They've since decided through their logistics department that Queensbury is not an issue, so no more storage facilities are needed there. Bolton, we have gotten through DPW, Dan's working on a 40-yard container, closed container, that's going to take care of the Bolton issue. So the extension with Evolution should go forward with no changes in service, unless I need to know about anything that needs to be addressed with them before I extend. You can email me. You know, I know sometimes there's a delay in scheduling. We had that with the county. We addressed it with them, and they got here within a few days. So unless anybody has anything like that, I need to address them.
I would just comment, I think they're a little behind in their pickups, which I think they're working with the
They
towns.
are, and I suspect it's because of the market and their flow through. I can, you know, confirm that, but if I send them an email, they're on the schedule within 2 days. Or they're already on the schedule, but they haven't conveyed that to the transfer station. So you can just let me know, and I can address that
Yeah, they're
with
behind you.
our rep. So the electronics recycling is taken care of. I have talked to our vendors and some other reps in the solid waste industry. In the email, I let you know that Wheelabrator and Finch were willing to extend. I recommend that we do that. If we do not, prices are going to go up substantially. The increase for 2019 will be $1 per ton for processable and non-processable. Also included will be C&D in our tires. What's not going to be extended is the recyclables. So plastic, metal, cardboard, newspaper, magazines. We can't get an extension. There just is no market there. Also, our transportation contracts, the only one that will extend is County Waste, and they're only servicing Lake Luzerne. So Casella and Waste Management will need to be rebid, and those are all of our other transfer stations. Kevin and I have talked about how we can proceed with basically streamlining the bid. We'll continue to work on that. And the other thing is that DEC is holding meetings throughout the state, trying to get feedback and come up with recommendations for the recyclables because there's just nowhere for them to go. So I've asked for the vendors to keep me updated on that, and I'll let everybody know what they come up with, as soon as I have that information. So if anybody, I'll proceed as I've just outlined unless there are any comments or suggestions otherwise.
We're spending almost $700-800 a month now to get rid of plastic. It's costly.
I don't believe that's going to change anytime soon, if ever. They've got to get a market for plastics and metals, and I think the only thing left that there's a market for right now is cardboard. That's what I was told by our vendors.
So what would you need from us, a resolution or
No,
just...
we don't need a resolution. This is an informational thing just to keep everybody updated on where we're at in the process. So I'll get the bids out as soon as I can for what is not being extended.
Thank you. Anything else for solid waste? Supervisor Dickinson?
I have an announcement if we're done with solid waste.
Sure.
Some enterprising fool stole my field vehicle this morning.
Your what?
My field vehicle. It's a car. Got a lot of field equipment, you're not carrying it on a bike. It's a Chevy, black SUV, small. It's got my name slathered all over the side of it in red print. And they stole it from Lake George. It's readily noticeable, so if you see it around in your travels today, call the sheriff's department and let them know.
Did you read it too?
Okay. Good luck finding that.
Huh?
Good luck.
Yeah. Who
Motion
steal
to
the car?
adjourn?
The guy's name on the side of it.
Quick, go read it.
Motion adjourned?
Kevin, on that invoice, do I send that on to you
I've
for
already
that
asked you to.
$8,000 for equipment, or do I send it to Betsy?
Send it to Betsy.